breaking news from Los Angeles. It was a travel nightmare at LAX.
Several terminals evacuated. Incoming flights were also stopped and traffic into that airport a standstill. All this as a precaution, we're told, after there were reports of gunfire. It turns out those reports were false, but the damage done.
It was chaotic. We got off the plane and were exiting and saw just a mob, a crowd running towards us.
These frantic scenes at the nation's second busiest airport. Passengers running in all directions, many onto the tarmac at LAX after reports of shots fired. ABC's Matt Gutman was there as it unfolded.
Pretty eerie sight to be at LAX and see the loop, which is normally so packed with traffic, completely empty. Lots of people scattering. They closed down couple of terminals, and you see everywhere people having to hoof it to try to get where they're going, even out of this airport. Pretty chaotic here and pretty scary here.
The scare forced the FAA to call for a ground stop. All flights west of the Mississippi held at their origin. Passengers in some terminals had to be rescreened, causing long lines. Finally, flights resuming after about 2 hours. The reports of gunshots turned out to be false, instead spurred by loud noises. Police looking into the source. A man in a Zorro costume was detained. It's still unclear if he was connected to the incident. He talked to our station, KBC.
They didn't say they arrested me or anything like that. They explained to me, it's crazy stuff happens here in the airports, whatever like that. And within 2-3 minutes after they approached me, it was over.
The incident at LAX coming exactly 2 weeks after chaos erupted at New York's JFK airport. Reports of gunfire outside a security checkpoint there sent people running in panic. The governor has ordered an investigation into the police response.
A guy in a Zorro costume only in Los Angeles. Would that be the norm?
At least 45 people have been killed and dozens wounded in a car bomb attack targeting a military facility in the Yemeni port city of Aden. The dead were new recruits at a training camp in north of Aden. The camp is run by forces loyal to former Saudi-backed President Mansour Hadi. Fighting to save her job, suspended President Dilma Rousseff is expected to confront her political opponents at the Senate on Monday as Brazil prepares to see her end. Rousseff was suspended from presidency in May. The opposition accuses her of cooking the books ahead of her 2014 re-election. She denies any wrongdoing. South Korea's President Park Geun-hye says North Korea will never downsize its nuclear weapon capabilities. She said the South's government and military should prepare countermeasures against Pyongyang and take a punitive stance against it. North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile from a submarine last week. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has called for reinstatement of the death penalty in Turkey. He urged Turkish MPs to pass a law to bring back the penalty to use it against those involved in the failed mid-July coup. Ankara''s accused U.S.-based opposition cleric Fethullah Gulen of orchestrating the putsch. Political deadlock in the West African nation of Gabon. Incumbent President Ali Bongo and his rival Jean Ping both claimed victory in Sunday's inconclusive election. They also accused each other of fraud and vote rigging, while supporters of the opposition leader celebrate his victory in the capital, Libreville. The United Nations Security Council is going to hold a meeting on Monday to reach a consensus on a person who will replace incumbent Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Ban's 10-year tenure will end by the end of 2016. 10 candidates are running for the UN chief post. French Interior Minister warns against any law preventing Muslim women from wearing full-body swimsuits in coastal resorts. Bernard Cazeneuve says such a move would be unconstitutional and cause irreparable damage. His comments come as some 20 French mayors defy top court's ruling on suspension of the ban. Colombia's rebel group FARC has announced a permanent ceasefire as part of a deal which puts an end to 52 years of conflict between Bogotá and the rebels. The Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia is to hold its last conference in mid-September to ratify the peace accord.
This is AP News Minute. A fire that engulfed a West Philadelphia church has been brought under control and no injuries have been reported. Flames were seen shooting from the front door and side windows as heavy black smoke rose from the century-old church. Los Angeles airport officials say a false report of gunshots that sent panicked travelers fleeing came right after officers with guns drawn detained a man dressed in black and carrying a plastic sword. Soon after, hundreds of passengers raced onto the streets and the tarmac, causing major flight delays. Hillary Clinton aide Huma Abedin says she is leaving her husband Anthony Weiner after the former New York congressman was accused in yet another sexting scandal. In his statement, Abedin said she and Weiner remain devoted to doing what is best for their son. And Pope Francis met with Facebook founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Zuckerberg's wife Priscilla Chan at the Vatican on Monday. The two spoke on the use of communication technology to relieve poverty across the globe. Emily Roseman, Associated Press with AP News Minute.
Today, Japan's Takata Corporation confirmed a truck carrying airbag inflators and a volatile chemical blew up last week in Texas. One woman was killed. Here's Chris Van Cleve.
The blast leveled a home, shooting pieces of the tractor trailer and its contents up to a mile. 10 homes in a 2-mile radius reported damage. Not much is left of the semi. It was hauling Takata airbag inflators and a volatile propellant. The Maverick County, Texas sheriff says the scene looked like a bomb went off. Part of the engine flew at least 30 yards, ending up in a house. After a 2-day search, police determined 67-year-old Lucila Robles died in the blast that destroyed her home. Texas Department of Public Safety investigators say it happened around 2:15 last Monday morning outside the sparsely populated town of Quemado. The 20-year-old driver of the truck went off US 277 at a curve and crashed near a home. He and a passenger were able to get out before the explosion, which damaged a Toyota SUV with 2 people inside. All 4 had to be airlifted to San Antonio. This accident comes as Takata faces one of the largest recalls in U.S. history, stemming from defective airbag inflators that can explode, sending metal shrapnel into the passenger cabin of a car. These accidents have killed at least 13 people.
Transportation Secretary Anthony Foxx today expressed concern about this crash, and we are just learning that federal safety investigators have joined the case. Nora, in a statement to CBS News, Takata says it has strict procedures when it comes to the transportation of its products that meet or exceed all regulatory requirements.
Chris, thank you. There was more heavy fighting today along the Turkey-Syria border, but it's not going quite the way the U.S. wants. Holly Williams on the dilemma posed by America's friends who are foes.
It began with Turkey launching an offensive against ISIS last week, sending tanks and Syrian rebel fighters over its border and into the town of Jarablus. Turkey's a close U.S. ally, and the operation was backed up by Turkish and American airstrikes. But after an easy victory against ISIS, the Syrian rebels headed further south to take on Kurdish fighters. Turkey views the Kurdish group as terrorists, but the Kurdish fighters are backed by the U.S. They work together with American special forces.
It's an ISIS fighter.
And we've seen them up close, stripping away territory from ISIS. So now 2 U.S.-backed groups, who are both supposed to be fighting Islamic extremists, are instead clashing with each other. This video appears to show members of the Kurdish group captured and humiliated by rebel fighters. America's special envoy for the fight against ISIS, Brett McGurk, tweeted today that the clashes are unacceptable, calling on all sides to stand down.
The U.S. says the Kurdish fighters are withdrawing from the contested area. But Nora, this isn't the first time that U.S.-backed groups have clashed. And the more they fight each other, the longer it'll take them to combat ISIS.
Holly Williams in Turkey, thank you. The epidemic of gun violence in Chicago has claimed another victim, this time the cousin of Chicago Bulls star Dwayne Wade. Here's Dean Reynolds.
32-year-old Nakia Aldridge was on her way home from registering one of her 4 children at school on Friday, pushing a stroller with her 1-month-old baby along a sidewalk on Chicago's South Side when she took her last step. She wasn't the shooter's target, but she's dead all the same. Eddie Johnson is the police superintendent.
She wasn't aware that her short life would stand as an example for what is a clear failure in the criminal justice system here in Chicago.
The 2 arrested suspects are convicted felons. brothers with known gang connections, yet neither served their full sentences. One got out in February, the other just a little over 2 weeks ago. To keep prisons from overcrowding, most gun offenders serve only 50% of their sentence here. Mayor Rahm Emanuel says that must change.
We keep coming upon the same facts. Repeat gun offenders who continually run in and out of the criminal justice system with no consequences, who are back on the streets, wreaking havoc.
In only the most serious crimes, such as murder, do offenders serve more than half their sentences. Emanuel and the police are pushing for higher bonds to keep repeat gun offenders off the streets while awaiting trial, and if convicted, they want mandatory minimum sentences that would remove judicial discretion.
Whatever punishment they get, then they should have to abide by that and serve their time. That's the bottom line.
Diane Aldridge is Nakia's mother.
Just a life that is gone. Too soon. Too soon. She was taken away from us.
Had Nakia Aldridge not been related to a famous basketball player, it's unlikely her murder would have drawn so much attention. After all, Nora, hers was just one of 11 murders the Chicago Tribune counted over the course of this past weekend, rounding out the most violent month Chicago has experienced in 20 years.
Dean Reynolds, thank you.
The Pentagon says clashes between the Turkish army and U.S.-backed Kurdish forces are unacceptable. It says the fighting provides room for Daesh terrorists to find sanctuary. The Pentagon reiterates that the Kurdish YPG fighters must return to the eastern side of the Euphrates. Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu has accused the Kurdish YPG forces of engaging in ethnic cleansing in northern Syria. The accusation comes as Turkey has launched a deadly offensive in the Syrian territory. Çavuşoğlu said the military operation will continue unless the YPG withdraws to the east of the Euphrates. 5 men armed with explosive vests, rifles, and grenades attacked the Iraqi town of Ain al-Tamir in Karbala province, killing 18 people. Security forces gunned down 4 of the assailants, while the 5th one was killed in a blast. Over 24 were injured in the attack. 2 bomb explosions have killed at least 9 civilians in Afghanistan's Helmand and Ghor provinces. Helmand has seen heavy fighting in recent weeks between Afghan security forces and the Taliban. The group's militants frequently target security forces with roadside bombs across Afghanistan. Brazil's suspended President Dilma Rousseff has started her testimony at the Senate in an impeachment trial which could see her permanently removed from office. Rousseff is accused of breaking budget law. She has described the trial as a coup by her opponents. Poland has criticized the European Union's response to last year's refugee crisis, saying Brussels worsened the situation instead of offering a real solution. The Polish foreign minister slammed other EU countries for failing to secure the bloc's external borders. He was speaking with his German and French counterparts. South Korea's President Park Geun-hye says North Korea will never downsize its nuclear weapon capabilities. She said the South's government and military should prepare countermeasures against Pyongyang and take a punitive stance against it. North Korea test-fired a ballistic missile from a submarine last week. And Tehran has hosted the first American Human Rights Art Festival. The event sheds light on the violation of human rights both inside and outside of the United States by relying on documents released by Washington itself. More than 50 works of art were displayed in the week-long festival.